Today on the Gaming Manual, May 1997 Electronic Gaming Monthly. What's wrong with Sega Saturn sales? Why didn't we get the 64DD here in the United States? Why did this guy use electrical tape on his PlayStation disc? Let's explore the answers to these questions and more. Ready? Go. Hey, this is Jason.
And I'm Josh. Welcome to the Gaming Manual. Today, we're taking a look at the May 1997 issue of Electronic Gaming Monthly. Now, one of the very first things that we noticed is that the table of contents comes in after 14 pages. You heard that correctly. 14 pages.
For some reason, and I didn't even realize this till much later, but EGM counts the cover as page 1. Over here, we have a little price wars comparison between the N64, PlayStation 1, and the Sega Saturn. There's even a little graph over here that shows the projected sales for the year. Take note of how low the projected sales are for the Saturn here. And one page over, we have a Gamecom expose. We all know now that this was Tiger's failed attempt at entering the handheld market. But it's still interesting to look back at all the ways they hyped this thing. They even mention that it's not backlit for some reason. Why would you bring that up?
This is actually a continued feature from something a few pages back, on the 64DD. This was never released in the US, but it was in Japan. This is also the second time we've come across an ad such as this in a 1997 issue of EGM. Cool stuff, nonetheless.
Now we're really getting into the meat of this EGM. The top 10 picks of the month for each console.
Well, I didn't have a Saturn, and I didn't have a 64, still never played it. I grew up on the PlayStation, but what I thought was interesting is, unlike other magazines, to my knowledge, they actually did an overall. That's kind of why I liked EGM, because this shows you
not just
a mix.
One console.
And as you can see, one of the overarching ones, PlayStation has more, but more Nintendo's at the top.
That's a good point.
An awesome Doom 64 ad. I've never played any Doom games, but Jason mentioned several times that this is his favorite Doom entry.
Oh, it's true. I loved this game as a kid, and I still love it today as an adult. I'd argue this is the best early Doom port. It's a dark, unsettling adventure that's burned into my brain.
Albert's Odyssey for the Saturn. I've always wanted to play this game, but I never had a Saturn, as I said before. And it's funny how early in the magazine, the Saturn was claimed to have the lower projected sales for the year, but features plenty of Saturn games in their coverage sections. Lost Vikings and Harvest Moon for the Super Nintendo. Harvest Moon in the US was originally Stories of Seasons from Japan. Eventually, Harvest Moon branched off and did their own thing in the US, keeping the name Harvest Moon, whereas Stories of Seasons continue to make games. However, in the US, they decided to branch off, and Harvest Moon kept its name, while Stories of Season became a new entry in the US.
Review Crew! This was always a personal favorite section. I wonder what these guys are up to these days. Looking back now, it's funny how we just trusted these guys, no questions asked. How the hell did we even know they were any good at these games? We didn't. But gimmicks like Sushi X kept us buying and kept us reading.
Now, one thing about the scoring system, you'd get 2 really solid games and then 1 lousy one in the middle. It was almost like they were trying to sneak in that bad title so you wouldn't notice. They did the same later on, where you'd have 8 on the page, and you'd have 7 strong ones, and then 1 weak one still snuck in there as if they were just trying to sneak it past us like we wouldn't notice. This, along with the tips and tricks, were where the real gold was. Jet Moda was a favorite on the PlayStation.
Tricks of the trade! Here we have the very codes we used to share on the playgrounds at school.
Tekken 3 and Darkstalkers. On one hand, I love that the magazine covered these games, but on the other hand, it also aggravated me more because even the game manual itself had limited information on special moves and combos. Tekken 3 and Darkstalkers are definitely 2 games that require guides in order to master the game and be able to play competitively against your friends.
Final Fantasy VII cover story. 90 pages in, and we're finally here. Wait a minute, is that Link? Nope, never mind. My mistake, that's Ares. The article briefly goes over some of the behind-the-scenes development of Final Fantasy VII. Now, this game was hyped beyond belief, even months before this point, so you can probably imagine how stoked people were.
Fighting Force. I liked this game. It was a 3D beat-em-up, and it may not be as good today, but I really enjoyed it, and I think that fans of Streets of Rage would also enjoy it.
Letters to the editor. This was another personal favorite section of mine as a kid. The editors were usually quite snarky and comedic. For example, take a look at this question right here. Dear EGM, I recently purchased a PlayStation from a friend of mine, but I accidentally dropped the CD that came with it. I sort of stepped on it and it snapped into 2 pieces. I used electrical tape to put it together, but it didn't work. Thought that electrical tape was for electronics. What should I do? To which those clever editors replied, Boy, we can't see what you did wrong at all. Nope, nothing at all. The electrical tape should work, no problem. No problem at all. I know the problem. You forgot the single most important step. You gotta force the game into the PlayStation, then put the whole thing in the microwave. Don't even turn it on. Just leave it there. Forever. The EGM letter art was also awesome. I was always blown away at how skilled a lot of these artists were, especially with the limited space of an envelope as your canvas.
Well, that's it for this one. Thanks for taking the time to check out the channel. We look forward to sharing more cool, insightful content with you here on the Gaming Manual. See you in the next video.